in the Scriptures. Now, there are other important elements in the meaning of the word repentance. Biblical repentance involves regret and sorrow over sin. Sorrow before God for one's sins. That's an important aspect of repentance. In 2 Corinthians 7:9, Paul speaks of the sorrow of repentance. Let me read it. Now I rejoice not that ye were made sorry, but that ye sorrowed to repentance. So there is a sorrow connected with and involved in repentance. He who repents is truly sorry for his sins. His sorrow is for having wronged and offended God by his sins. The sorrow of repentance is the sorrow that David expressed in Psalm 51:4, that he had offended God by his sin. Against thee only have I sinned and done this evil in thy sight. Some professing Christians are not sorry toward God for their sins. They are sorry, all right, but they're sorry that they got caught in their sins. They are sorry in the sense of regret, but mere regret is not true repentance. The sorrow of repentance, furthermore, is not a lot of crying and taking on in public. I've been to some worship services where people, they run down the aisle every Sunday and they're crying and they're taking on, and they go back out and live just like they have all week, and then they come back and do it again the next Sunday. There are some people in some churches who do that every Sunday over and over again. Crying and taking on in public is not the sorrow of repentance. It is true that tears may indicate repentance, but it's also true they may not. Judas had a kind of repentance that made him sorry for his betrayal of the Lord, but his sorrow did not lead to his turning from sin or changing his mind or changing his heart about sin, about his sin. Look at Matthew 27 and verse 3. Matthew 27 and verse 3 tells us about Judas. It actually says he repented. Matthew 27:3. Then Judas, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, that's the reason right there, repented himself, and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priest and elders. True repentance involves sorrow for sin, but it's more than sorrow. It is a sorrow that one has sinned against God. And it is a sorrow that leads to a change of mind, a change of heart, and a turning from sin and to God. I tried to boil this down to a formal definition of repentance. And here, I believe this is a formal biblical definition of repentance. Repentance is a change of mind about sin and about God that results in the sinner's sorrowing over his sin and turning from that sin and to God. Now I want to run that by again because it's so important that we understand that. Repentance is a change of mind about sin and about God that results in the sinner's sorrowing over his sin and turning from that sin and to God.